But yeah, just tell
Yeah.
people who you are and what you do, and then give us kind of some of your thoughts on reverb as an expressive tool.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Jesus Florido. I'm a violinist based in Los Angeles, California, and I've been playing electric for a long time, a long, long time. My first, it comes down to my first electric violin. Uh, when I was 15 years old, I discovered Jean-Luc Ponty. I bought a record that had him on the cover with a purple. It looked like purple. It was blue, a violin. And I remember the first time I was in New York that summer, I went to a violin shop with a record and says, "I want this violin," and the guy had no idea. So he figured it out, and it was a Barkus Berry, and I bought my first Barkus Berry in 1982. Went home and plugged it in to a little crate amp that I had, and it sounded like crap. Oh, why doesn't it sound like Jean-Luc Ponty? So that's my learning curve right there. That's zero. Um, and then I asked a friend of mine, also a kid, that played guitar, and it says, "Well, do you have any effects?" And what I had no idea. And he says, "Well, I have a wah pedal," and he gave me a wah pedal, and then he gave me a reverb pedal, you know, and that was the beginning, saying, "Oh, okay," because as violinists, we're used to the natural reverb of the room. You play in a concert hall, even if you play the violin, it's naturally dry. I mean, there's nothing on it. And we use our rooms, the size of the room and the halls and the concert halls and all these places as our natural reverb. And the one thing I learned very, very quickly is that when you amplify your violin, you have none of that, you know? So you have to recreate it. So it became my learning curve and my love affair with reverb and delay, which, by the way, to me they go hand in hand together. Um, and I wanted to show for many years, for about 20 years, these two were my side by side on my pedal board for many years. This one is actually broken. If you know anybody that can fix it, but anyway, um, those hardwire ones were really rich in sound and um, but it came down, the learning curve came about that, how can I give this sound a little bit of room, because it's not necessarily a lot of echo. A lot of people think of reverb that don't know anything about it, think of reverb as echo, but it was about giving the sound a little room to breathe, you know and understanding the basic parameters, is what kind of reverb is a spring, is it blades, I mean, all those things I learned much later, just messing around, like that was my learning curve, was messing around with different effects. And nowadays it's actually a little more sophisticated given the technology. And I'm a Helix guy, and that's been an incredible jump in progress in effects processing.
Yeah, I think a lot of our first experience with it is like you're practicing in your bedroom where there's a bed, which is all soft and usually carpet, and then you just step into the bathroom one day, you're like, "Whoa, I'm
Whoa,
really good
exactly.
at the violin," right?
Exactly. Yeah, because it's the thing is this: what happens with violins is that what we hear here as we play classical violin or acoustic violin, it's actually the worst sound. The sound that we want to hear is a sound that is over there, and we never get to experience that, very little. I mean, sometimes maybe in a nice room, wet room, you can hear a little bit of it, but we have to, what I call the religious part of playing. You play something and you hope it sounds good on the other side. You know, you pray to the gods that it will come out nice on the other end. And what happens with amplified instruments, and why I love it so much, is that we have absolute control. And we hear it immediately. We hear that feedback in our ears. So, to me, to play dry, and it's like it's not worth playing to me. It's like playing naked. um, and a lot of excuse me, a lot of times when I hear this new players that are plugging in, and which I'm very happy about, a lot of them don't use any reverb at all because they don't understand that they need some of it. I mean, it's not to make it completely wet, but you need to give the sound a little room, as I call it.
Yeah, sometimes you'll hear the real purists talk about, oh, well, we don't want to cheat, right? We don't want to cheat. And you go, what? Itzhak Perlman plays in a concert hall for a reason, right? And they make those
Exactly.
things really reverberant for a reason. We could deaden those things
For,
down. I mean, if we don't want
yeah,
to cheat, then we really should play in a completely dead room, right?
yeah, yeah. I was actually talking to a friend of mine about the Walt Disney Concert Hall here in Los Angeles. And when they first designed it, the fabric they used for the seats was too harsh, and it was bouncing the sound too much. They have to reupholster the whole thing. Yeah, they chose the wrong fabric. So it was
Wow.
like whoa, 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 and it was too much, and the sound was coming bouncing right back. So imagine when comes the definition of a concert hall, that the fabric the seats have on makes a difference.
Well, if you guys would just fill all the seats, we wouldn't have this problem, right?
Well, that's the other. You have to plan for both though, because sometimes if you're recording in the hall, you don't have an audience. So you have to prepare for both. And as a violinist, you have to adjust for both. You have to adjust for playing with an audience and without an audience in the case of a recording session.
Yeah, one of the things that we've talked about with in the video where we're discussing reverb is that this is one of the effects like reverb and EQ. You can't just set it and forget it. My reverb settings
Yeah,
will not be the same every night because the room I'm
no,
in is not the same every night, right?
it changes. Yeah, and that's one of the challenges that I find using like a helix type of thing is that my reverb and my delay both will change depending on the room, depending on the band, and it's kind of tricky to have both to edit them on the spot. So what I do is that I set two of them, so I have at least a choice. I turn one off and the other one on, and I normally use actually two reverbs anyway. So I will complement one with the other. I will one a little wetter than the other. And kind of mess around with that. Um, and like again, the use I also for delay, I use almost like a post reverb. So you give a little tail to the sound at the end, so again has even more room. If the room is really dry or it's a big arena, you have to be careful with that too, instead of a bar. So yeah, you have to be open and flexible and be always thinking ahead. But you do that. So let me add this, because you have to do that when you play on a classical stage anyway. you know I every room is different, so you have to crunch a little more or play out a little more or play ahead of the beat kind of thing. So if it's a big hall, the sound is going to take a while to get to the end of the seat, so you need to play ahead of the beat, that kind of thing. So the natural delay, will be or latency, the natural latency, to use an audio term. You have to be ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, what are some of your favorite reverbs, just both in and outside the Helix? And what are you sort of looking for when you're auditioning a new reverb?
um the speed of the decay, how much room is there. I am I have my river phases, as I call it. At the beginning I used to use a lot of hole, like the mess with the hole size more. And experience have taught me that plates work really well in small rooms, for instance. You know, plates are fabulous. Some of in different plates, and how many and all those different settings. But I have to say that right now, what I have on my rig are mostly plates, and I have a, like, again, if it's a big room, I have a whole, like, I have a secondary delay set on a bigger hall. So if I need to kick in a little more, I just click that one on, and it gives me that much room. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've different ages give me different things. Also, how much other effects I'm using, because sometimes if you're using a lot of distortion, you don't want a huge reverb, because it needs to be dried and chunky and defined, but you still need some room. So I will use a room delay for that and make it a bigger room, but make the decay really short so it gives me body instead of echo, as to put it in in lamest terms.
Yeah, that's a great point about making sure that you're picking reverbs that work with the sounds that you're making. Sometimes, if we're using like a lot of chorus or something, for instance, the
Yeah.
reverb you use would be different than if you're using a clean sound or a wah, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So that's what it's such a crucial and underrepresented effect that people don't spend a lot of time in. And it's funny because it's when people ask me, "What's your favorite kind of music?" I say, "Well, it depends when you ask." But it's the same thing with reverb. You just asked me, "What's your favorite?" Well, it depends. There's some, and I have uh, um, pedal boards that I designed for each different project. Like for my years with Nima Collective, my band that was for 12 years, we used a lot of lush sounds. So I'm running three different kinds of reverb at the same time, plus a delay. So it was huge, huge, big sounds because I had to fill a lot of space you know if I'm doing a Latin jazz gig, you go to the more natural thing, because it's just a clean sound and a wah here and there. My love affair with wah is inevitable. But it's, yeah, it's very depending on what you're using or what precedes on the chain. What determines what kind of reverb you need to use to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about the context of it too with the group. A three-piece band, I'm trying to fill up a lot of space. If I'm playing in a 7 or 8 piece band, I don't need to take up as much space, and I need
Especially
to
on
I
the
need to think about that.
EQ. Yeah, exactly. On the overall sound, if sometimes if you have a bigger band and you use too much reverb, you're gonna crash with a lot of people. And what is the sound engineer gonna do? It's gonna turn you down.
I would never.
That's never happened to me. Turn me down. No.
So when you talk about using multiple reverbs, how do you stack those reverbs? What's your thought process about what comes first and what am I looking for that way?
Well, in general, lamest terms, I want to go first with something with short decay, and a lot of and a lot of pre delay, and short at a little wider at the beginning and shorter at the end. And then on the second one, then I use the room, whatever, if it's plates or springs or whatever I'm using, um, just to give it a little more substance. But also, if you look at it on audio, it makes the signal a little thicker, so you have more body instead of, you can have a little teeny sound and with a lot of delay at the end, a lot of cadence at the end, and that doesn't carry. You need to carry. So again, you have to read the room and make sure you can cut through, but you must use, please, if you're young and you're listening to this, you might use some reverb, please. Please.
Well, if we think about what we're trying to emulate, if we're trying to emulate an acoustic violin on a concert stage, and we're not always trying to do that, but if we are, the body of the instrument itself gives us a little bit of reverb, right? I mean, before we had
Yeah.
IRs, the body, I would try to get a super short, maybe a half a second warm, fat kind of reverb. And then
Yeah.
the next thing is the band shell itself has some
Exactly.
reverb. So I would do kind of like a, maybe 1 or 2 second. And then, you think the hall itself is going to have even more. So if I'm outdoors, I've got to get all three of those accounted for if I want to kind
Exactly.
of sound like an acoustic violinist on a stage.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and in rare occasions, like I said, with the collector, I will use something that will be very, very late, kind of an action, because again, we're looking for lush. And then when I was playing with Healer, when that metal band, you want like nothing. It was like in the wall, kind of sound, because there was a lot of distortion in it. So yeah, that's what it is. It's learning to read the room, and what you need, and what the point is. That's what effects is such a, we are, in constant learning process and constant trying new things. My friend Man Wilder sent me an effects the other day, put in the reverb, breaking the holy rule, and putting the reverb before distortion, and it was this incredible effect that I wouldn't use it on live performance, but for a soundtrack, which I do a lot of movie recordings and stuff, it sounds really amazing. It had never occurred to me to break that cardinal rule, But Matt, being as crazy as he is, he broke it, and it came out with something really cool, you know. So that, what I'm trying to say, there's always room to learn and to experiment more. And the beautiful thing of using, the new technologies, is that we can just drag it on the computer and move it wherever we want, and the chain, and that is pretty neat.
Yeah, it used to be like, oh, I'm going to put my reverb before the distortion. Now I got to rewire my whole pedal board. And I'm
Exactly.
probably going to bump something, and a power supply is going to get messed up, and a gain stage is going to be screwed up. And, the Helix or any of the competitive stuff makes it so much easier.
So much easier. Yeah. So we're living in a really, really good time. And I remember for many years I used a GT Pro, and the boss the GT Pro, and it had, in the early 2000s, they had a computer, like a laptop version, that you could do the effects in there, and then this discontinued it. And that's when I just couldn't handle it anymore, and that was my process from leaving my beloved GT Pro, because I really loved it for so many years, and it was very stable as well. It never broke, and I never had a problem with it. That's when I left to go to the Line 6, to the Helix, when Helix just came out, um, because of that. I mean, to me, and I think I spoke in another session about this, one of the clinics I did, about using a combination of pedal boards or a multi effect. And to me, it's been that on the road, the less things that break, the better, you know. So before, I used to, I mean, I was the total crazy pedal guy, like all of us. I had 20 things connected, and one of them's got half unplugged, and you have to go through the whole thing to find it. That takes you half a song to figure that out, and you missed it, in the live performance situation, and that's what, I completely left. I mean, I still have a few boards for smaller things that I will, gather all my pedals. I have boxes and boxes of stuff. I have a lot of gear, um, but that's what I've been so happy with the multi effects pedals, because it saves you that, and it also helps you the ease to change quickly as well.
Yeah, and if you travel somewhere or if some drunk falls on your pedal board on the stage, you just restore the preset. It's not
Yeah.
like, a 4-year-old comes in and starts turning knobs. You're like, I'm never going to be able to
Well,
get my sound back again.
well, any, like, for road warriors like me, who live on the road, if they steal my Helix, I can run to a store. I mean, hopefully either borrow one or buy another one and download everything, because I have everything on my Dropbox. I
Yeah.
can restore it like in a matter of minutes.
Yep. I
So
keep all
that
mine
is,
backed up on my laptop.
yeah. I have it on my laptop, but I also have it on my Dropbox, just in case they steal my laptop too. This it's happened. They stole one of my Vipers in San Diego. Took me 3 years to get it back, but I got it back. Those things are unique, but that's a
Yeah,
whole different story.
no doubt. Yeah. So I didn't know that you were mostly a plate guy versus a room guy. Where was kind of your decision making point on that, and what do you like about plates over rooms?
um, uh, that came probably about 20 years ago when I started producing more singers, and I was working with this producer in a multi Grammy winning producer in Miami. And then he said, "No, plates are the best." And I only use plates. And I go, "But like, why?" And it says, "Listen to the difference in the voice." And then he showed me the singer that we were working on, and it was so much thicker. The voice was much stronger. So I went like, should I try that on the violin? And once I made my transition, it gave me a different, stronger sound, in my opinion, that I learned to love. So I'm kind of stuck with it for now. But hey, ask me in a couple of years, and I'm sure I'll be back to rooms and halls. It's like it's different. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's what we always have to. I mean, I tell people that I'm the lifelong learner. I keep learning all the time and trying new things. That's what keeps me young. um, so yeah, I mean, whatever works. Ultimately, it's whatever works for you, and whatever benefits the band or the song or whatever you're doing. Think that way. Don't. I never go with a closed mind. That, oh, this is what I use. I go first with what I use. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I love that it's an ever evolving process, and maybe when we
Yeah,
get to our 30s, then we'll do something different, you and me, right?
yeah. I know, man. I hope I'm looking forward to turning 30. Uh, Living in
Same,
LA.
same. Man, thank you for doing this. Where can
Oh, my
people find
pleasure.
your music?
I've
Where's the
been
best place to go to find your music?
well, my website jesusflorido.com, and I'm a big Instagrammer. I don't have much else. I mean, I have some videos on YouTube, uh, but again, I'm a busy guy, so I'm trying to spend my time on Instagram and my website. If it's I have videos and stuff, and all my music is available there. um, yeah, I love to hear from you too. I mean, I always like to open the door for young players to reach out. I'm a big educator, so I always like to share this 10 years that I've been playing electric violin.
Same, same. Well, again, thank you, man. I really appreciate you doing
No,
this. I know
thank you,
you're
brother.
super
Thank you,
busy.
thank you. No, I love the electric violin shop, and what you do. I mean, I wish I would have met you years ago.
Same.
It would have saved me a lot of time. It would have definitely saved me a lot of time if I didn't have all this information that we have available now. So that's what I always love to do this type of interviews, because we need more of that to save these kids a lot of time. I mean, I banged my head against the wall for many years. So
Yeah, this the stuff that took us decades to figure out, the kids can learn watching an 8-minute video.
exactly, exactly.